and welcome to EBAday 2022 in Vienna. I'm Hannah Wallace, and with me in the studio now is André Casterman, CMO of Intix, and we're discussing payment transaction data. André, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us.
Thank you, Hannah. Great to be here.
Really good to have you on, and a really interesting topic, one that's been at the centre of a lot of discussions over the course of EBAday, and I know you were on a session discussing this a little bit as well. And I want to set the scene first by talking a bit about the challenges that present themselves within this space. So could you expand on those for us?
Yes, indeed. The challenges are related to all of those innovations we have been talking about here at EBAday for years. You know, real-time payments, ISO 20022, we keep on adding new capabilities in the payment space, but actually the impact of this is the surging complexity of internal operations within the banks.
Yeah.
So we keep on adding those instruments, those capabilities that creates a need for additional systems, additional information to record, and new needs from regulators as well are adding to the complexity. So there are always new systems, new formats, new instruments, and actually the banks keep on adding to this complexity of their internal operations, new middleware, new systems like sanction screening as well. And the challenge they have is actually to access the transaction data, because it is spread on a number of systems internally.
Sure.
And getting access to the single version of the truth about a particular transaction, just being able to answer client requests or plug into a web portal for self-service is quite a challenge for banks, because you need to be able to know where to find the latest status of a particular transaction.
Yeah.
For clients, but also for regulators, and a series of use cases. So we really focus on addressing this complexity of internal operations and helping banks increase their accessibility to their own data. It might sound a bit strange, that is needed, but this is the impact of all those great innovations we have witnessed over the years in the global cross-border payment space, but also European and domestic space.
Well, as you say, it is complex. So thank you for highlighting the challenges. So with that, how can technology help?
So the whole point of technology is to be able to make this data much more easily accessible. Whether you want to access a payment that is being processed, to make sure if you're a payments operations head, you want to be sure that payment will be processed within the SLA. Real-time payments put much pressure on payments operations teams. If you're in the compliance space, you need to report to regulators, and regulators are becoming very inventive to require also quite fast reporting, like intraday reporting on particular transactions. So being able to access this data is important for many teams within the bank, and technology has to be able to basically find that transaction data and all the events that are being impacting the life cycle of the transaction across a number of systems. So the technology that has emerged over the years is really about being able to act as an information system on your transaction processing chain, and being independent as a technology from existing systems, not replacing the core banking, not replacing the sanction screening, but really being able to plug into all of those systems, including the middleware, the network interface, like a Swift interface, and being able to know at any point in time what is happening on a particular flow, and spot the issues, again, to report to the chief operations who is concerned about what is going wrong, and report to regulators to make sure you comply with regulatory requirements around transaction reporting. And over the years, we see this technology being able to address a lot of additional use cases, like feeding a portal for self-service, open banking, or feeding artificial intelligence, machine learning use cases. So more and more this technology has to be independent, highly specialized, to track the flows and the transactions, and also highly performant. This is where traditional database technologies are not able to handle the surging volumes of digital payments. So specialization in this function is key, and technologies have evolved over the years, and and banks need it
Sure.
because they have to keep a legal archive for years. They have to report instantly, and a lot of needs that we're addressing when making this data accessible, actually.
All right, well, you've highlighted some big technology trends within that response. Thank you very much for that. And I want to hear a bit about your position at Intex and what makes you different from those traditional technologies as well. What about that?
Yeah, so basically, Intix is really focusing on this challenge to make this data accessible and to track transactions from start to finished within the bank. And what makes Intix special is really the domain expertise. The co-founders have been active in this space for decades, and the approach the technical team took when starting the business is similar to internet search engines. Like when you're searching for something on the internet, you're actually searching in an index. You're not searching on websites, you're using Google or another one to search in an index, and when you found the information, you go to the website that you are interested in. And Intix is working in the similar way, whereby all those transactions, payment transactions, but could be other types of transactions, and all those events that are happening on those payment flows are indexed by the technology. So the Intix is not replicating the data, but to keep in track of what's happening, having pointers to get back to the source of the transaction when needed, and users searching for transactions or reporting will actually use the index and being able to access all the details when needed. So the domain expertise in payment flows and the technologies that were chosen at the start of the company 10 years ago to make it a highly specialized information systems on financial flows using this indexing technology is really making Intix today unique in this space.
All right, okay, that's good to get Intex's position on that. And I know, André, you would have been busy having some in-depth discussions during EBAday, so I want to hear a bit more about that. What were some of the big European megatrends that you've been discussing with other delegates?
Yeah, I like to focus on short-term trends first because they will impact us. They could help banks today. I was attending a very nice session moderated by Joost Bergen on real-time liquidity. And one of the speakers highlighted how important it is to have the right data to feed the right liquidity management and to reconcile transactions for bookkeeping and for liquidity management to get to a real-time liquidity management capability. And this is where also being able to pull this data in real time from processing systems in order to feed this need and this real-time liquidity management process is where the market will realize that, again, transaction data is the key. Whether you're processing it with one system or another, you need to be able to access the transaction data across its life cycle, because liquidity management will be, as an example, will be needing the latest status on a particular flow, whether it has been screened, accepted, processed, booked. All of those events need to be reported to the liquidity management process. But there are other innovations that transaction data will be impacted by, like ISO 22 is happening today, and some banks are using MT standards, the Swift MT standards, and the ISO 22 in parallel, and there will be issues coming from that. So again, you need to be able to track the life cycle of transactions, whether MT is still used or ISO. We have solutions for that. And then over time, also more and more real-time payments, being able to track SLAs, making sure you are compliant with SLAs of real-time payment schemes, being able to report on more and more regulatory demands from national regulators. And this is more and more stringent and all about real-time as well. And finally, over time, that's a longer-term perspective, but I don't think it will impact us before 2025, are those blockchain-based CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. It's another instrument for a transaction data system like Intix. It's just a configuration to basically add another instrument next to the existing traditional instruments.
That's right.
So very important indeed. Innovations ongoing in the payment space, and the future is to also combine all this transaction data with AI engines to
Yeah.
be able to basically enhance forecasting and build more intelligence around this all this transaction data volume.
That's right. Watch this space, it's safe to say. And it sounds like you've been having some really interesting discussions out there on the floor. And I'll let you get back there to continue those. But Andrew, thank you very much for sharing your insights with us.
Thank you, Hannah.